All right. Are you ready to kind of like jump into the deep end of history today? We're diving into ancient Egypt,
Okay.
but not just the textbook stuff, you know.
Right.
You've sent over some seriously intriguing articles and theories,
Yeah.
pyramids, lost civilizations, even hints about
That's fascinating stuff.
the nature of reality itself. We're talking about the kind of stuff that makes you look at history in a whole new light.
Yeah, what's so captivating about these sources is how they bring together the tangible achievements of ancient Egypt. I mean, you can see them
Right.
with those big, almost impossible questions about like human potential
Yeah.
and the limits of what we think we know, you know?
Right. And we've got these just incredible structures that have stood for millennia,
Yeah.
testaments to a level of like engineering and social organization that still boggles the mind.
It's incredible.
I mean, think about it. If someone asked you to build something like the Great Pyramid today,
Oh my God.
with all our modern technology, where would you even begin?
And that's the crux of it.
Right.
The how behind these accomplishments is almost more fascinating than the what, right?
Yeah,
It's easy to get caught up in the sheer scale and grandeur.
it is.
But what I find truly remarkable is the depth of knowledge that underpin it all.
So let's unpack that a bit.
Yeah.
We often hear about, the Egyptians' advanced mathematics and engineering.
Right.
But what does that really mean in practical terms?
Right.
Were they walking around with slide rules and blueprints?
Not exactly, but they did possess a deep understanding of geometry,
Oh, wow.
astronomy, and materials science, and it wasn't just theoretical knowledge.
Yeah. This was knowledge that was woven into the fabric of their society.
Wow.
And here's the key. They were inheriting and refining this knowledge over generations,
Okay.
building upon the achievements of their ancestors. It was a continuation.
You're saying it was like a massive civilization-wide game of telephone.
Yeah.
But instead of silly phrases, they were passing down increasingly sophisticated knowledge about how to build and organize on a monumental scale.
I love that analogy. It wasn't just about brute force. It was about a level of social coordination that we're still trying to fully comprehend.
Right.
Imagine the planning, the logistics,
Oh my God.
the sheer manpower required to quarry, transport, and assemble those massive stones,
Yeah.
all without the benefit of modern machinery.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
It really makes you appreciate the power of, like, collective effort. That does.
And shared knowledge, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got this foundation of incredible engineering and organization.
Right.
But then there's this other layer, the symbolism,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
spirituality, the connection to the cosmos
Of course.
that permeated ancient Egyptian culture.
Right.
It wasn't just about building big. It was about connecting to something larger than themselves.
Absolutely. And this
Yeah.
is where the line between practicality and belief system, like, it just blurs in
Yeah.
a way that I find endlessly fascinating.
Yeah.
Their architecture, their rituals,
Right.
their entire worldview was oriented towards aligning themselves with the cycles of nature,
Wow.
the movements of the stars, the eternal realm of the afterlife.
It's like their buildings weren't just structures.
Right.
They were like giant stone prayers reaching up towards the heavens.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
And that kind of dedication, that profound sense of purpose, it must have been a powerful motivator.
Right? Imagine devoting your life not just to building a pyramid,
Yeah.
but to contributing to a project that was believed to ensure the pharaoh's passage to the afterlife,
Right.
and with it, the continued prosperity of the entire kingdom.
Wow.
That's a level of conviction that's difficult to grasp from our modern perspective.
It makes you wonder if maybe we've lost something along the way,
Yeah,
that sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves,
it really does.
something worth pouring your entire being into.
Yeah.
But okay, before we get too philosophical, let's address the elephant, or maybe the spaceship, in the room.
Okay.
We have to talk about the alternative theories.
Right.
Right.
Of course. Because where there's mystery, there's bound to be speculation.
Right.
And when it comes to ancient Egypt, those speculations can get
Out there.
pretty out there.
Exactly. And I think it's important to acknowledge that,
Yeah.
Sometimes the most conventional explanations, while grounded in evidence, can still leave us with a sense of wonder,
Sure.
a nagging feeling that maybe, just maybe, there's more to the story than we're currently able to grasp.
It's like that feeling you get when you look up at the stars on a clear night.
I love that.
Even with all our scientific knowledge, there's still a sense of awe, of mystery, a recognition that we're part of something vast and ancient.
Yes.
And sometimes that feeling leads us to explore ideas that challenge conventional wisdom.
Like the whole ancient aliens theory.
Right.
You've probably heard about that one. It's definitely captured the imaginations of a lot of people.
It has.
Are aliens really responsible for the pyramids? What do you think?
Well, let's just say extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Okay.
While the ancient alien theory is, a fun thought experiment,
Yeah.
it's important to separate speculation from what we can actually support with
Right.
archaeological and historical data.
So no definitive proof of alien architects just yet.
Not yet, no.
But hey, that doesn't mean we dismiss the sense of wonder that fuels these theories, right?
Really, no, not at all.
I mean, it speaks to a certain human desire to imagine possibilities beyond our current understanding.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that our knowledge is always evolving, right?
Right.
What might seem impossible today could be common knowledge tomorrow.
Right.
But even without resorting to, extraterrestrial explanations,
Okay.
there are other equally fascinating theories about the origins of ancient knowledge.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of the lost civilization hypothesis?
Lost civilization. Okay, now we're talking. That sounds intriguing. What's the idea there?
So this theory proposes that the ancient Egyptians might have inherited knowledge and technologies from a civilization that predates recorded history.
Oh, wow.
A civilization so advanced that it left behind only whispers and enigmatic remnants.
Wow.
Only to be lost to time and cataclysm.
So you're saying the ancient Egyptians might not have been starting from scratch?
Right.
That maybe they had a head start, drawing upon the wisdom of a forgotten age?
Precisely. Imagine if our civilization collapsed tomorrow, and thousands of years from now, future archaeologists are trying to make sense of our skyscrapers and smartphones.
Right.
They might find it difficult to reconcile those achievements with the limited tools and knowledge available to them.
That's a really thought-provoking way to look at it. It's
Yeah.
like we're those future archaeologists
Right.
trying to piece together the past with our limited present-day understanding.
Exactly.
And maybe, just maybe, some of those seemingly impossible feats of ancient engineering weren't so impossible after all.
Right. And this is where the philosophical side of our deep dive comes into play, because
Right.
it's not just about what happened in the past, right?
Yeah.
It's about how we, with our present-day minds,
Right.
try to make sense of it.
Right.
Remember that conversation we mentioned about Plato's allegory of the cave?
Oh, yeah. The one where everyone's stuck staring at shadows on a wall, mistaking them for reality.
Exactly. Plato's allegory is all about how our perception of reality might be limited by our
Yeah.
senses and experiences. What if, like those people in the cave, we're only glimpsing a fraction of what's truly out there?
Wow.
What if there are entire realms of knowledge and possibility that we're simply not equipped to perceive,
Right.
let alone understand,
Yeah.
with our current ways of thinking?
It's a humbling thought, isn't it?
It is.
To consider that our understanding of history,
Yeah.
even with all our scientific advancements, might be limited by the very nature of our perception.
It's true.
And that maybe, just maybe, some of those out there theories about ancient civilizations aren't so far-fetched after all.
Exactly. And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of this whole conversation.
Okay.
The idea of esoteric knowledge.
Okay.
Those hidden or secret traditions,
Right.
passed down through specific groups or lineages throughout history.
Okay.
Some believe the ancient Egyptians were privy to forms of knowledge that we're only beginning to rediscover or recontextualize today.
Okay, when we talk about esoteric knowledge, are we talking about
Sure.
ancient Egyptian secret societies and hidden chambers beneath the pyramids?
Well, while I'm sure those secret chambers make for, great movie plots.
Right.
Esoteric knowledge isn't always about hidden locations or shadowy organizations.
Right.
It's more about different ways of understanding and interacting with the world,
Okay.
often through practices that go beyond our conventional scientific methods.
So are we talking about things like ancient Egyptian practices of astronomy and medicine?
Those are certainly part of it, yeah.
Okay.
But think also about the Egyptians' deep understanding of sound and vibration,
Okay.
their use of symbolism and sacred geometry,
Yeah.
their exploration of consciousness and the human energy field.
Wow.
Practices that, while often dismissed as superstition or magic,
Right.
might hold clues to a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of all things.
It's like we tend to dismiss what we can't easily explain or measure with our modern instruments.
It's true.
But what if those ancient cultures were tapping into forces and principles that we're only just beginning to rediscover?
It's a question worth pondering.
It is, it is.
And it leads us to another intriguing aspect of this deep dive. The uncanny similarities between ancient cultures across the globe.
Right.
We're not just talking about pyramids in Egypt anymore.
Right.
We're talking about pyramids in Mesoamerica, astronomical alignments in ancient Mayan cities.
Wow.
Flood myths shared by cultures with no known contact. It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It really does, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting there might be a connection between, say, ancient Egypt and the Maya?
It's possible.
That seems like a stretch, even for me.
It's a fascinating puzzle.
It is.
And there's no easy answer.
Okay.
One theory, known as diffusionism, proposes that ideas, technologies, and cultural practices can spread from one civilization to another through trade routes, migration, or even just the exchange of stories and travelers' tales.
So you're not saying the ancient Egyptians hopped on a boat and sailed to South America to share pyramid building tips?
Right, right.
I mean, while that would make for an epic movie,
it would.
It seems a bit far-fetched.
Direct contact between such geographically distant civilizations, especially in those times, is certainly unlikely.
Yeah.
But the possibility of indirect cultural transmission through intermediaries or along ancient trade networks, well, that's a bit more difficult to dismiss.
Right.
Our understanding of ancient seafaring and global trade is constantly evolving.
Right.
And who knows what we might discover about the interconnectedness of those ancient cultures.
Okay, so maybe not a direct connection.
Right.
But perhaps a slow diffusion of knowledge and influence over time and across continents.
Exactly.
That's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It really is.
Yeah. But there's another equally intriguing concept to consider. Convergent evolution.
Yeah.
Now, before you think I'm about to launch into a biology lesson,
Right, okay.
hear me out.
Okay.
Instead of applying it to biological traits, what if we apply it to cultural development?
Okay, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Explain how convergent evolution applies to ancient cultures.
Well, the idea is that humans facing similar challenges and environments might independently arrive at similar solutions or worldviews.
Okay.
It's like certain shapes and forms just resonate with something deep within us.
So are you saying that the pyramid shape, this incredibly complex structure, could have just popped up in different parts of the world completely by coincidence? That seems like a big coincidence.
Not entirely by coincidence.
Okay.
The pyramid is, at its core,
a very stable, geometrically sound structure.
Okay.
It's a natural progression for civilizations starting to think big when it comes to architecture.
Okay.
Add in the symbolic significance of the pyramid, right? Pointing towards the heavens, representing a mountain, a connection between the earthly and the divine.
Right.
It's not so surprising that different cultures, separated by vast distances, might gravitate towards a similar awe-inspiring form.
Okay, I'm starting to see how that could happen.
Yeah.
It's like some ideas or forms are just so universally appealing or practical.
Right.
That they emerge independently in different parts of the world.
Exactly.
But what about those astronomical connections?
Right.
The fact that cultures on opposite sides of the world seem to have built structures aligned with the stars.
Yeah.
Surely that can't be a coincidence, can it?
Well, the shared human fascination with the cosmos is undeniable, right?
Yeah.
Long before artificial lights and skyscrapers, the stars were a constant presence.
Yeah.
A source of wonder, guidance, and even fear.
It makes sense that people would be obsessed with the stars when they were such a prominent part of everyday life.
Exactly. And for ancient civilizations, understanding the movements of the sun, moon, and stars wasn't just about, like, abstract knowledge.
Right.
It was about survival.
Right.
It dictated when to plant crops, when to expect floods, how to navigate vast distances.
Right. So it's not just about shared knowledge, but a shared need to make sense of the cosmos and humanity's place within it.
Precisely. And that need, it transcends cultural boundaries.
Wow.
It's woven into the fabric of what it means to be human.
Okay, we've gone from pyramids to potentially interconnected ancient knowledge to the very nature of human curiosity and our connection to the cosmos.
We have.
What's next on this wild ride?
Well, to go even further down this path, we need to delve into the ideas of a philosopher who grappled with these very questions about the limits of human perception and the nature of reality, Immanuel Kant.
Okay, I'll admit, I've always found philosophy a little daunting.
Sure.
But I'm ready to have my mind blown.
Okay.
What does Kant have to say about ancient Egypt, lost civilizations, and the limits of what we can know?
To understand Kant's relevance here,
Okay.
we need to talk about his concepts of the phenomenal world versus the noumenal world.
Okay.
Ready for a bit of a philosophical deep dive?
Bring it on. All right, so we're diving into the deep end of Kantian philosophy now. Lay it on me. What are these phenomenal and noumenal worlds all about?
Okay, imagine you're watching a movie. The images on the screen, the sounds, the emotions they evoke, that's the phenomenal world, the world as we experience it through our senses.
Okay, so our everyday reality, the world we can see and touch and interact with.
Exactly, but then there's the noumenal world. Think of that, like the film reel, the projector, the entire mechanism creating the experience, operating behind the scenes, so to speak. It's the world as it exists in itself, independent of our perception.
A reality beyond our senses. So you're saying there's a whole other layer to reality that we're not even aware of. That's a bit of a mind bender.
It is, and here's where it gets really interesting. Kant argued that we can never truly know the noumenal world directly. Our minds are wired to organize our experiences using categories like space, time, and cause and effect. And these categories are essential for making sense of the phenomenal world, but they also act like filters, preventing us from grasping that raw, unmediated reality that exists beyond our senses.
So we're trapped in the movie theater of our minds, so to speak, only ever able to see the film, never the projector.
A very apt analogy. And this is where the connection to ancient Egypt, lost civilizations, and even those out there theories we discussed, it becomes even more intriguing,
Right.
What if there are aspects of reality, of history, that are just beyond the reach of our current projector? What if we're limited not just by, our technology, but by the very structure of our minds?
It's a humbling and kind of exciting thought, isn't it? It's like the universe is this giant puzzle box, and we're still figuring out which pieces even belong to the same puzzle.
And perhaps some of those pieces will forever remain a mystery. But that doesn't mean we stop searching, right? Because the pursuit of knowledge, the act of questioning and exploring, it's what makes us human.
Speaking of questioning everything, we can't forget about that other mind-bending idea, the simulation hypothesis. I have to admit, that one always messes with me a little. The idea that our entire reality could be a computer program.
It's a head spinner for sure. But like Plato's cave, the simulation hypothesis, it forces us to question the nature of reality and the limits of our perception. If we could be fooled by a sufficiently advanced simulation, what does that say about our assumptions about the world, about history itself?
It makes you wonder, what else are we missing? What other layers of reality might be hidden just beyond our current ability to perceive them?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it brings us full circle to our initial discussion about ancient Egypt. Perhaps those ancient cultures, with their different ways of understanding the world, were tapping into something we're only now beginning to glimpse.
It's almost as if, the more we learn, the more we realize how much we don't know.
That's the paradox of knowledge, isn't it? But instead of, feeling discouraged, I think it should inspire us to keep asking questions, to keep challenging our assumptions. And speaking of challenging assumptions, we have to talk about the James Webb Space Telescope.
Oh, yes. The telescope that's blowing everyone's minds with those incredible images from the dawn of time. What do those discoveries tell us about the limits of knowledge?
Well, for starters, the James Webb Telescope is showing us a universe far more complex and awe-inspiring than we could have imagined. But here's the thing, it's also revealing galaxies that seem to have formed far earlier and evolved far more rapidly than our current models of the early universe can explain.
So are you saying the universe might be older than we think?
Uh-huh.
Or that the Big Bang Theory needs some tweaking?
It's still early days, but the James Webb Telescope's observations, they're challenging our understanding of the early universe in profound ways. Just as the discovery of ancient civilizations forces us to re-examine history, these cosmic revelations, they're forcing us to rethink the very origins of the universe itself.
I find it strangely comforting that even with all our, technological advancement, the universe can still surprise us,
Exactly. It's a good reminder that the pursuit of knowledge is a journey, not a destination. There will always be more to discover, more to learn, more to question.
Okay, you've officially blown my mind wide open today. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this epic deep dive?
Just this. Never lose your sense of wonder. Embrace the mysteries. And remember, the universe is a vast and extraordinary place, both, out there among the stars and within the boundless capacity of your own mind.
I think that's the perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey. I have a feeling we'll be revisiting some of these mind-bending ideas for years to come.